Lev Vygotsky, born November 5, 1896 in a small town called Orsha, which was located in western Russia. He was best known for being an educational and developmental psychologist. He was born into a middle-class Jewish family and his mother was his primary educator. When he entered public schools for his secondary education, he graduated with honors at the age of 17. Although the odds were against him to be accepted at the University of Moscow because of the strict anti-Semitic quota at the time, Vygotsky was one of the few young men accepted to the university, and he began pursuing his degree in law. During his time here, he did some self-directed study in the fields of psychology and philosophy, and after graduation, he returned home to teach both literature and philosophy. He had no formal training in psychology at the time, but it was clear that he was intrigued by it. After moving home, he began teaching at Gomel Teachers College, and this is where he met and married Rosa Smakova in 1924, and they had 2 daughters together. In 1924, Vygotsky gave a presentation at the Second All-Russian Psychoneurological Congress in Leningrad, where he discussed psychological investigations he had been researching. His research and presentation was well received, and he was offered a position at the Psychological Institute of Moscow. While he lived in the basement here, he was able to read many works which he would later put to use in developing his own theories. So now we know why he was interested in developmental psychology, but what was it that made Lev Vygotsky such a major contributor to education and developmental psychology, specifically pertaining to children? He believed that we do not learn because we've developed, we develop because we have learned. Therefore, in order to learn, we must be presented with tasks that are just out of reach of our present abilities. Tasks that are too complex cause frustration and learning does not occur. Tasks that are too easy can cause boredom in a classroom environment and no learning will occur. Those tasks that can be attained through guidance are in the zone of proximal development. I'm going to discuss some of Vygotsky's major theories and show some video clips of my cousins where I saw examples of his theories in action. Here we see a 2-year-old playing with the guitar. Clearly learning to play it is out of his zone of proximal development. Therefore, no learning would occur if someone tried to teach him. Vygotsky once said, "The central fact about our psychology is the fact of mediation." It was from this notion that one of his most significant contributions was born, the socio-cultural theory.
Introduction. That was close.
Introduction to the most amazing book in the world, the Bible. Why is the Bible so amazing? Because it's God's book.
Yes.
It's
Servants. Very good.
servants wrote it. It's God made sure it says exactly what's.
Not only is it important for children to interact with those who are at a more advanced cognitive level, it's also important for them to interact with peers their own age. He also coined the term scaffolding, which he defined as a process by which someone supports another to work in their zone of proximal development. He once said, "Learners are encouraged to carry out the parts of the task that are within their capacity, and the more skilled other supports them, or scaffolds the rest." Here is an example of my brother helping my cousin learn to tie her shoe. This is within her zone of proximal development, which is to say that with a little guidance, achieving this task is completely doable and should not cause her too much frustration. Here's another example, and although it looks a little strange, my little cousins are interacting and teaching each other karate moves they have learned in class. Vygotsky would say that this is a crucial part of children developing cognitively. At the core of his developmental theories, he would argue that children need to be active in their interactions with the world.
Twist them around my arm like grab, okay? Clap your 2 hands.
Whether it's with a parent, teacher, classmate, or family member. They cannot just mirror the world around them. He argued that full cognitive development requires social interaction, and this is something that is still completely applicable to the world around us. I even saw examples of his theories within my own family. Another important aspect of development in children he was interested in is the importance of language. He believed that the way culture is transmitted and plays a role in development is through social signs, one being language. Vygotsky uses an example of pointing a finger. Initially, this behavior begins as a meaningless motion. However, as people react to the gesture, it becomes a movement that has meaning. In particular, the pointing gesture represents an interpersonal connection between individuals. Maybe language is important before we've even given it meaning. Piaget and Vygotsky differed in their theories of development in some crucial ways. Piaget believed a child could develop by themselves by completing the 4 stages of cognitive development, whereas Vygotsky believed the zone of proximal development and a more knowledgeable other must be present for learning to occur.
Much of his theory, but he introduced something extra into our ideas of cognitive development, and that was the idea of the social environment.
Here's a chart explaining the differences seen in these psychologists' theories. You can see that Piaget views development in clear-cut stages, but Vygotsky sees development more as a smooth path that comes from interaction with the world around us. Another key difference to point out is the role of language in development between these two psychologists. Vygotsky sees this as something crucial. However, Piaget believes that thought is enough for a child to fully develop. It is clear that Vygotsky was a significant contributor in the fields of education and developmental psychology. In his 37 short years of life, before he died suddenly in 1934 of tuberculosis, he contributed 270 pieces of scientific work. His research is still used today and recognized in helping the education system in Russia. Even now, we can still see examples of Vygotsky's theories in our classrooms every day.
I don't know why you think that you could help me when you couldn't get by yourself.